Yo, it's Go, and welcome to the video. So this is going to be the last video probably that I do for Phase 2 gearing, because next Wednesday I need to submit my loot list to the guild, and then it's set in stone for all of Phase 2. So I've been working on this the past couple days. I've had some help from an old friend, Wagyu. If you remember them, they helped me with some like Sunwell stuff. They were pumping in Sunwell, and they also have the loot list system with their guild. So they helped me put together my list for Phase 1 and also my list for Phase 2. So I can't show you my actual list because sometimes guildies watch, and then they could use my list to edit their list around a little bit if they're like, oh yeah, he's got this up on this slot. So it's not going to be like, exactly piece by piece what I'm going for prio wise, but just like an overall set, I'll go over a couple of key things. So starting off top left here, we've got the tier Helm. So I do have the 4-piece. You can't really see it if I'm hovering over that one, but if I hover over the legs, you can see I have the 4-piece tier without the gloves. So the helm you can get with the emblems of conquest and also the chest. I don't plan on getting those like, week 1 or anything like that from the tokens from the actual raid, but I do plan on getting both of those from the emblems. So there's not many things to buy from the emblems that are good at this point if it's your main tune that you've been raiding on all of Phase 1. I believe it's 58 emblems each. So I'll be doing the new Heroic Plus dungeons each day. I think you get 5 emblems per dungeon per day, so 35 emblems a week just from doing those. And I'll be doing VOA and all that stuff, like everything that can give me the emblems. So that'll be 116 emblems I'll need. So it might take me 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, to get the 2-piece. And then in the meantime, the legs can drop from VOA. There's the new boss that's going to be coming out in VOA. Not counting on getting those from VOA, so these are on my loot list somewhere. And then also the shoulders. They can't drop from VOA. I'm just gonna have to get them from the actual raid. And they do come from Yogg. So I don't know if we might get Yogg first week. If not, we'll be getting there, by week 2, and hopefully we get some good shoulder drop tokens and I can get the 4-piece. 2-piece does sim better, but that's if you want to go for like the absolute best in slot, like 252 gear for the off pieces. I don't plan on doing that, so that's why I went for the 4-piece to have that proc available on all these movement fights. So there's a couple of good necks. The Pendant of Fiery Havoc I have listed on here. It's a nice hit piece. I'm not really putting like much prio on this though. It will be nice to have, but a couple 10-man necks that are really, really good too. And then I've got like the 25 neck version from Ulduar already. So not looking too much into necks, but there's a couple options that I am going for. But from 25 man, I'll be trying to get the Pendant of Fiery Havoc eventually. Now for cloaks, there's a bunch of cloaks. I've got like 3 of them I think on my loot list. There's the Sun Glimmer Drape from the All Is Well That Ends Well. That's kind of like Phase 2's version of Phase 1's neck. So it's like the quest, you got to get the item, drops every week. Oh, heroic. So it would be the Sun Glimmer Cloak, not the Drape, for the 25-man version. I think I even have Asimov's Drape on there too, but not high priority, of course, but it's a nice cloak, 232 cloak, upgrade from, I don't have Pennant Cloak, so it's an upgrade from my Cape of Unworthy Wizard. And then I even have Drape of the Sullen Goddess on my list too. It's got MP5, but it's, the crit, spell power, intellect, and a socket, and it's 252, so if not many other people are interested in this, hopefully guildies aren't watching this one and they're like, oh man, I should put that on my list too now. So I do have like a couple cloaks on my list. Overall, not too bothered about trying to get prio on like a best in slot cloak. All right, so chest I went over. I'll just move this off to the side here for a second. It's going to look a little weird, but the Grasp of Reason is one of the 252 pieces that I did put a little bit higher on my prio for the bracers. I didn't get like Unsullied Cuffs in Phase 1, so I want to have like a really good bracer for Phase 2 to upgrade my lower eye level bracers from Phase 1. Lots of people are going for the main hand offhand, the Star Shard Edge with Cosmos in the offhand, and I've been hearing that Cosmos is really good for healers as well, so it just sounds really contested, and I'm hoping that by going for the Saf instead, I will get one of the first couple staffs instead of waiting in line potentially for months to try to get the main hand offhand. So a little bit of a sacrifice there. The staff is pretty beefy though. Loads of crit on it, which I love, and then a lot of intellect, which is going to give extra crit. And the spell power is the thing that's kind of like lacking from the main hand offhand. I do have 63 spell power on there. I didn't change it. Let me do that before somebody comments. There we go, 81 spell power. So something to take note. If you're going from main hand offhand to a staff, remember there's an 81 spell power enchant. All right, let me move this back over. All right, so since I have the 4-piece, the gloves is my offset and Pharaoh's gloves. Tons of people are going for Pharaoh's gloves, including healers again. So I went with the leather gloves of the Frozen Glade. And Pharaoh's is from Algalon. These leather gloves are only from Hodir hard mode. And it's got a bit higher of a percent chance here. I don't know how much I trust that, but hopefully we see these drop a lot more frequently than the Pharaoh's gloves, since I'm going after these instead. You don't have to worry about mages and warlocks going after these, or priests. So we could still have some competition on them, but hopefully they're pretty uncontested and almost like a free piece of 252 gear. Now for the belt and boots, since I'm down here at the belt, I'm sacrificing going for 252 for both of these slots. I just want to try to get the crafted pieces like week 1. Spend most of my gold on buying the orbs and getting these two hopefully before I enter Ulduar for the second time. If they're too expensive, I only have like 30k gold. If I can only craft one of them, I think I'm going to craft the belt instead of the boots. And then eventually I'll get the boots by like week 2. So I'll be running the daily heroic on my ult, and I can purchase some runed orbs for my main from my ult's emblems. Since I'm not really going to be trying to like gear up my ult really quick, I can buy the runed orbs and send them over for free. And then the boots of wintry endurance, they look a lot better because they've got crit on them, but I haven't farmed the mats for a leatherworking piece. So I do have tailoring mats on hand. If I don't have time to put aside to get the mats for the leatherworking boots, I could just get the tailoring version. There's crit spell power. They just have less crit on them, so it'd be nice to get the leather ones instead. But yeah, it's just going to depend on if I farm the mats for that. Both of them have spirit and intellect. The leather ones are just looking like a little bit better. So maybe I'll get the leather ones. If not, I'm getting some version. Tailoring or leatherworking. All right, down to the rings. I did have a 252 ring on there. And then the other ones from 10 men, a lot of people are going to be going for the Nebula Band. So I did put Conductive Seal up a little bit higher on my list. Not like super high, but I put it up there to try to match with my AT 25 man ring that I have right now. The Signet of Manifested Pain. So if I don't end up seeing a Nebula Band, it'll be okay. But if I have Signet and the Conductive Seal, that'd be cool. Now, trinket wise, Flare of the Heavens it's pretty high up on my list, but Scale of the Fates, I'm on the fence about. So the way my loot list works is there's like tiers, there's brackets, there's rows, and the trinkets take up like the value of 2 items. So if I wanted to put up both trinkets really high on my list, I'm sacrificing getting extra loot put up there on like top of my list. And Scale of the Fates, the on use haste, it's nice, but on a 2-minute cooldown. I don't really care for like the 2-minute cooldowns. I kind of like the procs better. I might just be holding on to like Dying Curse and Flare for a long time and just be like fine with that. I love the 765 proc that Dying Curse has. And then having the Flare proc as well, like both of those procced, I think would be some pretty good burst damage with like Starfall and everything. There's a couple bosses that have like haste mechanics, so we're going to be getting loads of haste, I think, in Ulduar. I'm not really worried too much about getting Scale. The static 132 spell power is really nice though. Then there are a couple other trinkets, but they just don't match up to, Dying Curse or Scale to me. So there's Pandora's Plea is an option. I've seen sims where Pandora's Plea is kind of pre-equal to Scale of Fates, just depending on the fight length. A lot of intellect, which gives crit and spell power. And then it has that nice, really big proc for 794 damage for 10 seconds. And then there's Eye of the Broodmother from 10 man. So like, this wouldn't be on my loot list or anything. This would just be like, a main spec, off spec roll for our guild. Really good because of all of that crit rating. And then it's kind of got like a baby illustration attached to it. 130 spell power once it's stacked 5 times. So I don't really care for that type of playstyle for a trinket either. If I never see the Eye of the Broodmother, that'll be fine. So just to recap, I'm getting 4-piece. The helm and chest can come from the emblems. The legs can come from VOA. Gloves can also come from VOA if you wanted to try to get the gloves too for free. And then the shoulders are going to be the tier token that I have a little bit higher than the other tier pieces. The neck, I'm not too worried about. Cloak, I'm not too worried about. Bracers, I have pretty high on my list. The weapon, even though it might be less contested, is still kind of high up there because I didn't really get a strong main hand, offhand in phase 1. I got Impossible Dream, which was like 4th in line for best in slot, but it's the item I went for. And then hopefully some uncontested gloves, crafted belt and boots. The very contested ring, which in phase 1 I put pretty high on my Prio list. So phase 2, it's also going to be kind of high on my list since there's 2 ring slots. And then the other one's from 10 man, so if I get the 10 man one, it's cool. Player of the Heavens, again, really, really high on my Prio list. But scale, depending on the way your guild does loot, I would suggest getting Flare instead, and then scale maybe if you're really feeling like you wanna play around with that haste. I haven't been a haste person yet in Wrath. I had it kind of high on my list, but I think I might move it down a little bit. And then the idol, we're gonna continue, I think, to use the Starfire idol. Insect Swarm idol, don't really have to worry about that. So there are a couple pieces like the bracers that have haste on them. But for most of the slots, I tried to get crit if I could. For example, the gloves, I've got crit spell power spirit gloves. I've got some crit spell power spirit crafted belt. The boots, I'm going to try to get some spell power crit boots. Like I'm still going into phase 2 like I did with phase 1, prioing crit over haste. So this isn't what my gear set's actually going to be. Like it's showing 273 haste right here. I'll probably have more than that. I don't have like gems or anything in there, but I don't really plan on getting haste soft cap at the 401 again for phase 2. If it happens, it happens, but I'm still prioing crit, and especially for the weapon. Huge crit staff. Before I get going, here is all of the loot that I put on my list. This isn't like the actual order or anything like that. I just put all of the loot in there, and then I've moved it around since I've inputted everything into where it's actually going to go. But as you can see, like flare and scale are red in text. There's a lot of blue text items and then some black text items. So the black items I can put wherever I want to in these brackets. I can put them on like both sides and everything. There's no restrictions. The blue ones, I can only have 3 in each bracket. And then the red ones, I can put a red one and 2 blue in each bracket, but the red one takes up both sides. So I can have like scale up here in bracket 50 with the crown and the pendant, and then I wouldn't be able to have the shoulder pads in there anymore. I'd have to fill the rest of the top bracket with black text items. Kind of confusing if you aren't familiar with the loot list. That's probably a bad explanation of how it works, but yeah, I just really wanted to show like all the loot that's going to be on my list. This is all 25 man loot. There's a couple weapons on there. I might end up taking off a couple of like the chest pieces and things like that, since I'm mainly going for the tier. But I put them on there just in case like there's some bad luck with some drops and stuff, and I had to readjust my 4-piece if I end up getting like the tier gloves from VOA or something, because people didn't put the tier gloves on their list or anything, and it's kind of like a roll, and I get 4-piece with the gloves. Then if I had like a chest or shoulder or helm to fill out as an offset, then I've got a couple options on here for that. Yeah, there are a couple weapons on here too, like some upgrades from the 213 eye level weapon that I have. So I'm trying to give myself as many options as I can. Thanks for watching. Good luck on your loot. If you're interested in seeing my actual list, shoot me a message on Discord. I just didn't want to post it so that guildies can see it beforehand. If you're watching this video after the launch of Ulduar, then I'll have a link to the loot list in the description, but it's not going to be there until after Ulduar comes out and my list has been submitted. So thanks again, and good luck in Ulduar.